So today we're going to talk about adaptations, animals making adaptations, okay? So we're going to start with watching a short little video, and she's going to talk about different animals and their adaptations, okay?
Animals are using their adaptations to survive that I think are both bizarre and their spice with poisonous frothy spit is definitely leveling up. Prickle?
Okay, which one was your favorite? Did you know any of that? You did know some of them? Those are interesting. Okay, so we're going to talk about today, she gave us all kinds of animals, but we're going to talk about specifically animals that live in the rainforest. Okay? I'm going to show you our text that we'll be reading. And one thing we can do before we read is we make predictions about what we think the text is going to be about. So there's lots of things we can look at. Sometimes we can look at the pictures. We can look at the title. And it looks like this text only has one picture. So there's only one title. There's no subtitles. But we can look at this, and what do you think this text will be about?
Tropical rainforest.
And what do we see in that picture?
The rainforest.
And what is different about the rainforest than if we went out in the woods behind the house? How does it look different?
Well, the trees are not big enough, I think.
There's a lot more trees and plants, right? And one thing you can't really tell by this picture, but we know by the name, is that there's a lot of what?
Rain.
Rain. A lot of rain. Okay, so before we do that, we have 4 vocabulary words that we're going to look at because they're going to be in the text, okay? So we have adapt, camouflage, endemic, and biodiversity. Now I know there's at least one word you already know what that means. Which one?
Adapt.
You know
camouflage.
Yeah, I knew you knew what camouflage means. What does it mean to be camouflage?
Like blend in with something.
Yeah, to blend in with your surroundings. And why do you think that might be important to animals?
So they don't get ate.
Yeah. What about adapt? Did you know what that word meant? Okay, that's okay. So just looking at it, she talked a lot about different animals and their adaptations. So let's think about one of the first ones she talked about.
The adapt is like what they can do, like the birds, they puke.
Okay, and why would they need to do that?
To defend.
To defend themselves, great. All right, so what about this big word right here, endemic? Do we know what that means? No clue? Okay, that's okay. And this last one, biodiversity. Well, we can break the word into parts. We have biodiversity. Do we know what bio means? Okay, that's okay. What about diversity? Something is diverse. Do you know what that means?
No.
That's okay. All right. So, let's see. We're going to use a tool called a KWL chart. Have you ever done this before? That's okay. So we have K, W, and L. So K stands for what we already know about the topic, okay? W stands for what do you want to know about the topic? And L stands for what did you learn about the topic? So we're going to fill this out as we go, okay? So there's one part we can already go ahead and do, and that's this K column. So in this first column, I want you to just go ahead and write down what you already know about animals in the rainforest and their adaptations. Okay? Just whatever you already know, go ahead and write that in that column right there.
And do I write that word? Do I write that word? Or?
Just whatever you know. You can't do it wrong. Just tell me what you already know about animals in the rainforest. And we talked about they camouflage themselves and adapt, and we can also say they change to defend themselves. So you already told me you knew that, so you can write that in that column. Okay? Yeah, great. Okay, so right here in the W column, we're going to write what do we want to know about the topic. So I just want you to think of 2 questions that you want to know, that you want to ask about animals in the rainforest and their adaptations or camouflage. It can be whatever you want to ask, what was something you would like to know.
But can I write any animal?
Mm-hmm.
Lives?
Couldn't hold it, it's so hot, I couldn't hold it against my body.
Okay, let's see what you got. How do geckos change colors with different settings in nature? How do spiders in the rainforest make, what is that, bubbles? By webbing the water, okay? Alright, so what we're going to do, I'm just going to have you read this. And while you're reading, I want you to see if the questions that you ask, if you can find answers in here. They may or may not be in there. But as you read, see if you can find the answers, or like you're on a scavenger hunt. But you might find something else that's interesting. Maybe it doesn't answer your question, but it might give you some other information that you find interesting, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna let you read that, and then we'll talk about it afterwards, okay? Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to let you right here in the L column, I want you to write what did you learn from reading the text. And then I want you to find where you got that, where in the text that was, and underline it for me, okay? Alright, go for it. We could talk about it. What's something that you learned from the text?
What?
Did you learn anything new?
Nothing. I want to say whatever the word is.
Equator? No.
The endemic.
Oh, endemic? Yeah, that's one of our vocabulary words. And let's see, it's right here. So we're going to count the paragraphs. Have you ever done that before? To figure out what number paragraph? So here's paragraph 1. And you see how this is a separate group of sentences. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's in paragraph 6. I'm going to write a little 6 right there if you want to, so remember. So write a little 6 out beside that one. And let's go ahead and underline the sentence that has the definition of endemic. So go ahead and underline this sentence right here. Okay. And go ahead and underline that part right there because it's still the same sentence. There you go. It's okay. All right. So we learned what the word endemic means, and we'll talk about, in a few minutes more about our vocabulary. But you can go ahead and write. I learned what endemic means. Go ahead and write that down up there in your L column, which is good. So it says many of these species are endemic to tropical rainforests, meaning that the rainforests are the only place they live on Earth. So, do you think, let's see, it says a coral snake lives in the rainforest. So if we wanted to find a coral snake, where do we need to go?
To the tropic rainforest.
And why is that?
Because that's the only place they live.
Perfect. So you got it. Can you think of an animal that might be endemic to where we live? Or might be endemic? We might not know for sure, but can you make a guess? What are some animals we have a lot of?
Snakes.
We have some snakes. What else?
Dogs. A lot of those.
Do you think there's dogs other places in the world though?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably so. I know one animal that we have a lot of.
What?
We have a lot. Oh, think about it. What is something that maybe you look for in the fall time with your dad? What do y'all do together? Do you go hunting together?
Oh, deer.
Yeah, deer. There's a lot of deer in this area, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so we learned what endemic means. What's something else we learned? And it can be anything. Anything else you thought was interesting or something new you learned? Let's think about what it was talking about, adaptations. What are some animals that talked about their adaptations? Do you remember?
It said the birds.
What about the birds?
They peaked and fent.
Yeah, so let's see.
And the air frogs shoot poison to
Yes. Yeah, right here. Yeah. Other rainforest animals like the coral snake and the poison arrow frog produce a natural poison that protects them from harm. So that's pretty cool. So you could write that the frogs use poison to protect themselves. Okay. So we had some vocabulary words. I'll let you finish writing that out. Okay, great. So we have our vocabulary words, and we've already talked about endemic. And you actually, I was going to have you write your own definition to these words, but you already did that to endemic. But let's think of a way we can put that word into a sentence. How can you make a sentence using that word, now that we know what it means?
Some animals are endemic to other places.
Okay, yeah. So, go ahead and write that down. Some animals are endemic to what?
Different places.
To different places, okay? Okay, let's do these two. So we talked about this word.
Adapt means they use special defenses to defend.
Okay. Yeah, so, and say that again.
Some animals use a special effect to defend.
To defend themselves. Another word for adapt. I'm gonna put another word, a synonym for adapt in a sentence, and I want you to tell me what you think, how we could define this word. So let's say let me find one of the animals I talked about. The butterflies in the rainforest changed so that they can look identical to leaves, which masks them from predators. So what do you think it means to adapt to something?
Almost the same thing as camouflage.
Kind of, yeah. You're changing something for what reason? You've already said it.
For defense.
Yeah, okay. So we kind of said that is very close to camouflage, right? That means, what's another word we could use for camouflage? Can you think of a synonym for camouflage? Think about if you were going to go hunting and you're trying to do what? When you put on your camouflage, what's the point?
Try not to get seen.
Yeah, by what?
Deer.
The deer. You're trying to change your looks or disguise yourself, right? So I think another word for camouflage would be to disguise. Another word for adapt would be to
Defend.
Or we said, what's the C word? Change.
Oh yeah, change.
Mm-hmm. Now could you put those two words in a sentence for me? Let's think about this. Adapt. Talked about all kinds of animals that adapt. So how can we put that word into a sentence? Well, let's talk about this word just a little bit more. So animals aren't the only people or things that adapt. People adapt too. So let's say we're outside and you're at baseball practice and it's really, really hot and the sun's super bright, you don't have your hat, you don't have sunglasses, you're just out there and you can't see, and every time they throw the ball at you, you miss it because you can't see. So what do you need to do?
Put sunglasses and hats on.
Yeah, you're changing something.
Oh, you're changing yourself.
Yeah, changing yourself to better survive in the area that you're in. So if the sun is in your eyes, you put on your hat or your sunglasses and you adapt to your surroundings so you can do what you need to do better. Does that make sense? Okay, so how can we put that word in a sentence?
To change about your life.
Well, we're not trying to define it.
Oh.
We're going to use it in a sentence. Let's think about what I just said. We talked about being at baseball practice because we can talk. It doesn't have to be about an animal. So how can we create a sentence using what I just talked about, using that word?
to change your look and find a way to survive.
Well, okay, I don't want you to define it though. I don't want you to give me a definition. I just want you to put that word into a sentence. Like this right here. You put this one into a sentence. So how can we put that word into a sentence? We know it means to change, so let's use it in a sentence. Let's say we're going to do like a cause and effect, okay? So I'm going to give you the first part of the sentence and I want you to give me the second half, okay? Because the sun was in my eyes.
I put my cap in sunglasses.
To do what? Let's say this. Because the sun was in my eyes, I adapted by
putting my cap in sunglasses.
There you go. All right. Well, let's move on to camouflage. All right. So put that in a sentence. I bet you already know how to do that.
Change it.
Okay, that's what it means. But let's use this word in a sentence. We talked about when do
camouflage means to hide.
Okay.
Or stay away from predators that are bigger than you and try to eat.
So we talked about earlier, you and your dad, when do you use camouflage?
When we're hunting.
So you could say, my dad and I use camouflage when we go hunting. Okay? You don't have to write that down. All right, but I do want you to now, we talked about this, I'm going to give you a question. And I'm going to ask you to write. You're going to make a prediction. We already talked about that word one time. What does it mean to make a prediction? Do you know what that means? We predicted what we thought the text was going to be about by looking at that picture. So what do you think?
To look at something.
To make a kind of a guess about what we think might happen, okay? So I'm going to give you this question. I want you to just write a couple of sentences answering the question. Okay? So what do you predict will happen if a toucan, what is a toucan? Do you know? Remember, it was in the text. It's a bird? It's a bird with a large, strong beak, remember? And I'll show you a picture of a toucan. So what do you predict will happen if a toucan who lives where?
In the rainforest.
If he is moved to Antarctica. And what's Antarctica like?
It's real cold.
Yeah, so I want you to write a couple of sentences. Just what you think. So it can be whatever you think would happen to that toucan if he moved to Antarctica. And I'm going to pull up a picture of a toucan for you. Alright. So there's a toucan. There's his big, strong beak.
Wow.
That's a big beak, isn't it? I'll pull up a picture of Antarctica so we can be thinking about what would happen if he moved there. There's some penguins. Think about what that toucan would do. Do you think he would survive or not survive? And why would he survive or why would he not survive? You're right. All right, we're done.